After the year that the dunk line had in 2020, we're looking to 2021 and expecting a little drop off. Surely it's been an incredible 2020. I'm recording this video in 2020, but these guys are dropping in 2021. Are they going to be able to keep the hype going? Are they going to be able to keep that standard, which was almost perfect throughout 2020? Not a foot wrong. And then here they come out with one of the first dunks for 2021. It's iconic, it's got a lot going on, but does it keep that high level, that high standard from 2020? We'll look at that in today's video. We'll also talk about why I look at this shoe and I think about the Philippines. Yo, Philippines, if you're out there checking this out, thank you guys for your support all the time. I see Philippines when I see this shoe, even though it's a Chinese shoe, and we'll get into that today as well. But then there's also the final question, that's the biggest question, is does this mean anything? And what I'm talking about is each little part of the shoe, they represent something. Surely it's a collaboration with an artist. So we'll get into all that today as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike SB Dunk Low Pro Street Hawker. This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel des.毎日 毎日 Design. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring in content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today, what we've got on the docket is an SB Dunk Low Pro coming out of a Chinese collaboration with an artist. And I don't really know much about the artist. His name is Jeremy Deng or something like that. Sorry for getting that wrong, but I don't want to pretend I know about art. Don't want you guys thinking I've got any insight into the artist and the collaboration from that side of things. I'm the shoes. I'm not the artist for sure, but I do know what I've researched about the shoe, about where it's come from, and the history that's drawn out by the artist that represents China, and we'll be getting into all that today. Now, I've talked at the start of this video about a couple of questions, and I'm going to bring you those answers in today's video, but I've been trying something new recently, trying to shorten the start of the videos and also go straight into the details about the shoe, because that's what I think most people are interested in, and then we'll get to kind of the more narrative and story stuff later on. So first things first, let's take a look at this shoe and talk about the details on it. Like I said, it's a collaboration with a Chinese artist, Deng. I'm sure his name is Deng, and I'm not sure about first name. I've got a feeling it's Jeremy, but I might have that wrong. But what the concept that he was going for is China is a huge country, geographically and by population, over 1 billion people, but massive. And not only is it big in size, it's also big in diversity. You can go from somewhere like Shanghai, which is ultra modern, one of the most connected cities in the world, to somewhere out in the sort of west side of the country where it's much more rural and much less developed, although they are talking about the Chinese economy passing the US economy in 2028, which is only 6 years away. So there's huge diversity across the country, and this shoe is supposed to represent the different foods that come with those different diversities. And specifically, they're talking about flour, they're talking about soups, and they're talking about poultry. So your ducks, geese, chicken, that kind of stuff. A very big staple of Chinese meals. If you think about it, ducks, Chinese duck and stuff like that. It's a very traditional meal that was made it all the way to the West as well. So food is the big thing about this shoe, and the different parts of the shoe represent that, and that's why they look so different from the left and the right side. First things first, let's bring up the heel, and they've foregone the normal Nike branding on the back of a pair of Dunks, which has that sort of lopsided E because it doesn't fit in the branding panel on there. And what you've got instead is the Chinese character for food, which makes sense now that you understand what I've talked about with that idea from the artist, the Chinese artist bringing out the Chinese foods. So yeah, that character on the back there says food in Chinese, and it's either very similar or identical to the Japanese character, which is where I am, because much of the Japanese language, especially the written language, was taken from Chinese, and that's how I know that it means food. But what I don't know is what the kanji on the side mean. If you look at the traditional place where the branding comes on a dunk at the back towards the heel, you've got that circle there, and I know that one of them I think is bun in Japanese, which is a kanji, a character that means culture, but I'm not really sure about the other one on there. But it might be to do with food culture or diversity in culture or those kind of things. But they're the two main places on this shoe that bring out the Chineseness and the Chinese characters on the heel where it says food, and then that little branding panel on the side, that little disc back there. Now let's get into looking at some of the places on the shoes where you've got those differences in the materials. I want to zoom in on Nike Air Zoom. Might as well zoom in then on the tongues. I wasn't going to do this, I was going to do the swooshes, but since I said zoom, we might as well have a look down onto the insoles and the tongues and give give you an idea of that mismatch that's going on between the left and the right shoes. As far as I can tell, there's nothing that's the same on either shoe. I might be wrong. There might be one or two little details that I'm wrong in that, but as far as I can tell, nothing the same. And looking down on these insoles, looking down on that top line, looking down on those tongues there, you can see the difference in the colors and the color patterns between the left and the right shoes. And it does say Air Zoom in there, and that's why I kind of had a little chuckle to myself when I said let's zoom in somewhere. So we zoomed in on the insoles first, which I didn't plan to do. But what we'll do now is we'll zoom in on the swooshes, because here what you'll be able to see is the brown swoosh, which is on, I think, the left shoe. If I've got that wrong, sorry about that. But it's very textured, and it's got a very sort of wood feel to it. So, and that to me is natural, it's earthy, and it's traditional. And then if we go to the other shoe, and I'm not sure if I've got a better shot than the heel to show you this, but it has a much more modern sort of metallic feel to it. Now there's two things that I want to focus in on there. One is that the left shoe and the right shoe have different swooshes, different materials, different colors, different swooshes, but the lateral and the medial side swooshes of the shoes are the same. So if you take the right shoe with that sort of modern metallic feel to it, you can see that the lateral side and the medial side have the same swoosh, and that's easiest seen on the heel. But then if you pan across to the left shoe, you can see lateral, medial side now with that brown wood feel to it. So the left and right, or lateral, medial sides of the shoes have the same swooshes, but the right shoe and the left shoe themselves have very different swooshes going on there. And hopefully that picture of the heel is giving you an idea of what I'm talking about when I mean that sort of feel of those different swooshes on those different shoes. And then if we go to the front, I want to go to the toe box area, especially, I think it's the, is it grey? I think it's grey on the left shoe, and it's a really good place to look at to get an idea of the difference in materials, because you've got the toe box on there, and you can clearly see the grey toe box in that sort of suede and smooth materials, and then wrapped around that is a fabric, and I'm not sure what the fabric is, but the point is that it's not leather, which is what your standard kind of dunk materials would be. But then if you go across to the other shoe, and again that sort of modern feel with that bronzed effect on the toe there, you can see a much more leather effect on that shoe, and that sort of brings me to one of my major points about these guys, is that there is a huge amount of difference going on as far as color and design is concerned, but there's also a huge amount of difference going on as far as the materials are concerned, and I don't usually like that. Usually that's not my kind of thing in shoes. I like them to either have a solid kind of consistent color and then play around with the materials, or have a solid consistent material and play around with the colors. But doing both, I often feel like it's a little bit too much, but I don't mind it in this shoe. And now we're getting into that second half of the video where I said I was going to talk a bit more about the shoes themselves and their story, rather than the actual details, and focusing on the specific points of the shoe. And what we're talking about is a personal opinion, that usually I don't like it when it's all mashed up with materials and colors. But in the case of these guys, I get it because of the story. The story is all about the diversity of China and the diversity of foods across that huge nation, and that's why this shoe looks like this and is made of these materials, and that works for me. Personally, not the kind of shoe I would be rocking anytime soon. It just doesn't fit my kind of style. But from a lover of sneakers, and from a person who has a sneaker channel's point of view, I can see the point of it, I can see the story of it, I can see the purpose and the worth of it. So I totally get that. And that also brings me into my Philippine side of things. So if anyone from the Philippines has stuck around and still watching this video, thank you very, very much. I want to draw your attention to Low Rains, so hopefully I'll be able to put a link somewhere to his channel. He did a video for me many months ago, might even be like a year and a half ago, and it was called Ukay Ukay. And when I saw these street hawker sneakers, I was thinking, that must be about the Philippines and those Ukay Ukay sort of stalls where they hawk their sneakers on the streets. And then it turned out to be a much more kind of different story, an artist from China, as opposed to street hawking Ukay Ukay sneakers from the Philippines. But still, for me, that's my first sort of feel for these shoes. I go straight to that Ukay Ukay Philippine culture. So at the top of this video, I did say that about the Philippines and China, and that's where I'm kind of coming to with that kind of street hawker feel. So anyone from the Philippines checking this out, thank you very much for checking out the content, and go over to see Low Rains and see what he's doing there. His channel's a great place to keep up with what's going on in in the Philippines and a little bit wider in the world too. So something for you guys to check out there. Let's see if I answered all the questions and everything I wanted to get to on this shoe. The Philippines and the China tie-up, the story, what's the point of these? That each individual panel on this shoe does have a story, especially about those foods and the flour, the soup, and the poultry kind of sense of the words. So there is, a story going on with this shoe. And I think there was a third question I asked. I can't remember what it is now though. So, but for me, it's a great looking shoe. It's interesting. It does keep, I think that was it. It does keep the hype going from 2020. And it kind of reminds me of the Ben & Jerry's a little bit. I know a lot of people will be like, what? But the Ben & Jerry's were very much a collaboration first and a dunk second. It was more about the design and the collaboration with Ben & Jerry's and then the sneaker, if you like. And that's the same with these, I feel. I feel like the story and the collaboration is what's first, and then the shoe itself is coming along second. But I think people are going to buy into it. I think people are going to say, yes, they've maintained that standard and maintained that level that was high in 2020 and looks like it's going to be high again in 2021. Okay, it's time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content. I'm trying up, doing a few different things at the channel now, trying to keep the content a little bit sort of sharper, and hopefully people out there are appreciating that. And I'd love to know in the comments down below if that is the case. Let me know if you feel a difference at the channel. It's always good to get feedback from the people watching at home. But for now, it's time for me to sign off and do what I do at the end of every single video, which is just remind you that I do this every single day. And that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.